Today's case details the story of a newlywed couple embarking on a new life together, all starting with a dream vacation. But there's a darkness which lurks beneath the surface of this tropical paradise, a darkness fueled by jealousy, alcohol, and a violent rage. Prepare yourself, because the details of this case are incredibly difficult to hear, and how the whole thing played out is sure to leave you wondering if you can't trust the person closest to you, then who can you trust? But before we get into a case that will absolutely break your heart, let's talk about something that does bring me joy, and that is affordable, cute jewelry. Ana Luisa is a jewelry brand built to deliver simple, beautiful, high-quality jewelry at a fair price. Starting at only $39, they really have something for everyone with their long-lasting, water-resistant jewelry essentials that not only make you look good, but you can feel good about wearing them. Ana Luisa jewelry is made to stand the test of time with strength and humidity testing, with pieces that won't break your budget. I've been wearing earrings from them literally every single day for about 2 years now, and they still look exactly as shiny and clean as the day I got them. I have been loving these little dainty hoops that I've been wearing every single day. The hoops I have in my first piercing have a little star on one of them and then a moon on the other, and I just think they're so cute. Then the second piercing is a little double hoop with a little rope texture on one of the little hoops. I just love the look of these two little hoops for an everyday look. Ana Luisa has so many different pieces that can really show your personality. Ana Luisa offers free and fast US shipping and exchanges, as well as affordable worldwide shipping. So if you're looking to grab some luxury jewelry at unbeatable prices, Ana Luisa is the place to be. Anytime is a good time to treat yourself or even a friend or a significant other to some amazing high-quality luxury jewelry, all at affordable prices. So go ahead and treat yourself to a little something from Ana Luisa. Head to their website by clicking the link down below to grab your new favorite jewelry pieces now. Thank you again so much to Ana Luisa for partnering with me on today's video and for your continued support of this channel. With all of that being said, let's get right into today's video. Christe Chen was described by those who knew her as hardworking, determined, outgoing, generous, and someone who could easily connect with others. She was originally from Chicago, Illinois, but at some point she moved to Colorado, where she worked as a pastry chef at a local bakery. Those who knew Christe said that she always loved baking and sharing her treats with friends and family who were happy to try anything she made for them. But all throughout her life, Christe knew that her true passion was in helping others. She always wanted to work in healthcare, so after 6 years working as a baker, she pivoted her entire career path, which, by the way, I always love hearing women do. I love a good pivot because life is too short to be stuck at a job that you don't want to do anymore. Either way, when Christe was 36 years old, she moved from Colorado to Memphis, Tennessee, where she attended the University of Tennessee to earn her degree in pharmaceutical studies. There, Christe thrived. She was focused on the social determinants of health in low-income areas and was awarded a grant to further her research. By April of 2021, she then won the Wolters Kluwer Drug Information Award of Excellence in Clinical Communication. After graduating from school, she started working as a pharmacist at a Kroger grocery store. By November of that same year, 2021, then 36-year-old Christe met then 38-year-old Bradley Dawson. One source reported that they met through a mutual friend, another said that they met through their love of marathon running, but I'm not 100% sure. Either way, Bradley was working as an IT specialist for a nonprofit organization, Youth Villages, based in Memphis. He was originally from Chicago as well, and again, both he and Christe had a shared love for being active and running long distance. From there, the two quickly fell in love and started a relationship. When they met, Bradley was in the middle of a divorce from his first wife, who he married back in 2019, but that didn't slow the pace of this whirlwind romance. By January of 2020, Bradley finalized the divorce from his first wife. After this, Bradley and Christe decided that they were ready to start their new life together, so by February of 2020, the two tied the knot. They held a small, intimate ceremony that was attended by close friends and family members. Some who attended, it was their first time meeting Bradley, but nonetheless, everyone there said that the couple seemed madly in love and very excited to start their new lives together. After their wedding, the two got to planning their honeymoon. According to friends and neighbors of Christe, she couldn't stop talking about how excited she was to spend her honeymoon in paradise with her new husband. She was ready to start this next chapter of her life, be with her husband, and start a family with him. By July 7th, 2022, the pair checked into Turtle Island, Fiji. This resort is an all-inclusive, secluded 500-acre island resort which offers spacious, cozy villas dotted along the Blue Lagoon. They only host 14 couples at a time, and villas start at around $2,500 per night, though some sources said that Christe and Bradley paid around $3,500 per night. It is a highly sought-after location for newlyweds looking to deepen and explore their connection in a private location away from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. It was somewhere Christe's parents had been multiple times, so they were the ones who paid for the couple's stay. But what Christe didn't know was that her private, romantic getaway with the man of her dreams would quickly turn into nothing short of a nightmare. The first night seemed to go well for the newlyweds. But by the morning of July 9th, just 2 days after check-in, resort staff noticed that neither Christe or Bradley showed up for breakfast. Again, this was a resort that hosted just 14 couples, so when someone was missing, it was noticed. At first, they just figured that the couple were sleeping in that morning. After all, they're on vacation and probably drank the night before, so they might want to sleep in. But when they still didn't show up for lunch, staff became concerned. It was at that point when they realized that they actually hadn't seen either Christe or Bradley at the resort at any point that day. By around 1 p.m. on July 9th, the hotel manager sent a housekeeper to clean the room, giving him permission to enter despite the "Do Not Disturb" sign hanging on the door. When he first entered the room, it appeared empty. No one was in the bed, and they didn't hear anyone in the room. So he went ahead and started cleaning. He changed the bed sheets, replaced the towels, and even folded some of the clothes he found lying around. But as he went throughout the room, he saw that the door to the bathroom was just slightly open. He looked through the crack of that door and saw red stains all over the wall. This really scared him because it immediately gave him a bad feeling about what he was about to find. That prompted him to push the door open and look inside, but once he did that, he was horrified at what he saw. There, Christe was shoved in the small space between the wall and toilet, sitting slumped over and covered in blood. It was clear that she had been brutally beaten. Right away, the butler alerted the resort manager, who then contacted local authorities. When they arrived, they found Christe, who was covered in blood with multiple lacerations and bruises all over her body. She was covered in broken glass, and it looked like she had been propped up in the position she was found in, with her hair covering her slumped head, which was leaning towards the toilet, and then her arm was left dangling in the water tank of the toilet. They found blood spatter all over the walls of that bathroom. They then found that a window in the bathroom had been shattered, and the cistern or the water tank on the toilet was cracked and broken. At this time, they confirmed that 38-year-old Christe Dawson was dead. And of course, Bradley was nowhere to be found. According to an autopsy later performed on Christe, she had suffered numerous blunt force injuries to her head and shoulders. She had lacerations all over her scalp, with a large gaping wound near the top of her back near several other smaller cuts. Her cause of death was determined to be the result of blunt force trauma to her head as a result of a vicious, brutal attack. Based on this, as well as what was found in the bathroom, it appeared that Bradley had beaten his wife at some point, smashing her head into the toilet, causing significant enough trauma that it broke the ceramic. But like I said, when they first found Christe's body, Bradley was nowhere to be found. They saw that his phone had been left behind, but he took his wallet and passport and all of his cash with him. So, when the investigation started, officers were sent to search for him. In the meantime, other officers spoke with each guest and staff members to see if they had any useful information that could tell them more about what happened that night. Based on those interviews, they learned that on July 8th, Christe and Bradley attended a party referred to as Family Fun Night. There, island staff and all the guests got together on the beach to dance and drink the night away. According to witnesses, Christe and Bradley seemed to be having a great night. They were clearly happy with one another, soaking up each other's company and enjoying their vacation. But with that, they continued drinking, and eventually the two were pretty intoxicated. At one point in the night, one witness reported that Bradley was acting flirty and dancing inappropriately with another guest, which obviously made Christe upset. Like, come on, dude can't even control himself flirting with another woman on his literal honeymoon with his wife. But I digress. After Christe got upset, the two left the party, heading to another area of the beach to argue. After arguing for a bit on the beach, the other guests watched them head back to their bungalow around midnight. By that time, guests in the bungalow next to Christe and Bradley reported hearing raised voices, screams, and loud banging. They made a noise complaint to the resort, but the noises quickly stopped, so staff didn't think it was worth checking out. At some point in the early morning hours of July 9th, a night watchman on the resort reported seeing Bradley walking along the beach alone. This piqued his interest, but Bradley eventually returned to his bungalow without any more suspicious activity, so he didn't think too much of it. Based on this, it's thought that after this argument on the beach, they went back to their bungalow and continued their argument. They were very drunk at the time, so of course, things escalated quickly and a physical altercation broke out. The yelling, screaming, and banging are most likely from when Bradley attacked Christe. Then, when the noise suddenly stopped, that is probably when Christe died. After realizing what he had done, Bradley most likely left the room and walked along the beach to think about what to do. But he ultimately decided to go back to the room, grab his money and passport, and run off, trying to escape the consequences of his own actions. The searches for Bradley didn't last long, though. By around 3 p.m. on July 10th, a local man on the nearby Matakawalivu Island noticed a man who was clearly exhausted and covered in cuts and bruises walking towards the island's village. This man spoke to him and learned that he was a tourist staying on Turtle Island. The man said that at around 2 or 3 a.m. on the 9th, he grabbed a kayak and paddled the 1.2 miles across the lagoon to this little island to escape after having an argument with his wife. Of course, this man would later be identified as Bradley Dawson. The local man later said that when he first encountered Bradley, he was bruised and bleeding from his palms and feet. He figured the injuries came from falling into a nearby coral. Bradley appeared exhausted and distressed, so the man immediately wanted to help. He offered him food and water, but Bradley kept insisting that he was okay. He just told the man that he needed to call the police. He told them about this argument he had with his wife and repeated over and over that the two had a fight. He didn't say anything about how the fight ended with his wife dying or even how it started. He just repeated that they had a fight. The witness said that he could smell alcohol on Bradley, and it was clear by the way he was behaving that he was still drunk. This interaction with Bradley alarmed the local man because, according to him, this part of the island is crowded with tons of resorts and tourists, but it's very rare to see someone from Turtle Island venturing off to any of the other islands. He went on to say that these are very wealthy people who stay on Turtle Island, so they don't ever go to their islands. The only people turning up on their beaches are typically backpackers and surfers. As far as he knows, these are millionaires who never stray from their expensive resorts. Based on these suspicious circumstances, of course, this local man called the authorities, who arrived shortly after. Pretty much immediately, officers took Bradley back to the main island and to the police station for questioning. In that interview, Bradley allegedly admitted to officers that he and Christe got into a drunken argument on the night of July 8th. He said that the night started out fine with them attending that party and taking shots together. He said that as they were heading back to their villa, they started arguing about something, but he couldn't remember what it was about because he was so drunk. When they got back, they started changing, but when Bradley tried to hug his wife, she got angry and started questioning whether she really wanted to be with him. That is when the argument escalated and things turned physical. This altercation ended up in the bathroom somehow, where Bradley said that Christe punched him, which made him absolutely lose it. The two got into a scuffle, which resulted in the window in the bathroom shattering and the ceramic tub on the toilet cracking. He said that the next thing he knew, he saw Christe bleeding from the cuts on her face, sitting down next to the toilet, clearly hurt. In a panic, Bradley left the bathroom and paddled away on a kayak. And then he was discovered, and you know all the details up to that point. Now, obviously, it was shocking when he made that confession, and it seemed like maybe he would be cooperative after that. But after making this initial confession, he requested a lawyer who advised him to stop talking. He then stopped cooperating with law enforcement. They did ask him for a DNA sample at that time, but he refused. At that time, Bradley Dawson was then charged with the murder of his wife, Christe Dawson.
Okay. Mafia 1, Mafia 2, eh? Chalo. Chalo. You learn something. Oh, yeah.
As that was happening, Christe's parents were notified of their daughter's tragic, horrific death. Of course, they were heartbroken and devastated. She was their only child. They made their way to Fiji, where they were able to view her badly beaten body. Turns out, her body was actually in such horrible condition that the medical examiner was unable to embalm her to be sent back to the US for a funeral. She had suffered such deep lacerations to both sides of her head and face, especially near her eyes, that embalming fluid would have leaked out. As a result, after the autopsy was complete, Christe's family made the difficult decision to have her body cremated so that she could finally return to the US and be with her family. For the weeks that followed, Bradley and his lawyer worked together to make Bradley's defense. He, of course, pleaded not guilty at his first hearing, where he was also denied bail. His lawyer came out to speak with the media, painting Bradley as a husband in mourning who is devastated at the loss of his wife. He said that the whole thing was just a tragic accident and that no one is more upset about all of it than Bradley is. He went on to say, quote, "Something surprising happened. Bradley's okay now, but he was really distressed when it happened. Last week, he was in a desperate condition, but he's picking up now. It's a horrendous thing to have happen on your honeymoon." From there, they worked hard to get that initial confession he gave police scrubbed from the record. He didn't want it to be admissible in court. It was argued that he gave the confession while under a great deal of distress and didn't mean what he was saying. Therefore, the confession should be tossed. But as far as I saw, that did not work and did end up being admissible in court. After news broke of this horrific incident, family and friends of Bradley's came out to express their thoughts. Some said that Bradley was known to be a kind, gentle man who has never done anything like this before. It wasn't in his character. They can't believe that he would ever do something so heinous, not on purpose at least. It had to be some sort of accident. On the other hand, an ex of Bradley's also came out to say that, yes, normally Bradley was a kind, normal man. But when he drank, he turned into a completely different person. He was known to black out and do things that he never normally would, then would have no memory of any of it. So it's entirely possible that he was blacked out, became violent, and lashed out at Christe when he attacked her and genuinely doesn't remember every detail. But nonetheless, he still brutally attacked her and murdered her and needs to be held accountable. Finally, after about 2 years of back and forth within the Fiji court system, the trial for Christe's murder started in December of 2024. At this time, Bradley's defense was claiming that the whole thing was an accident. He said that the two did get into a very heated argument, but he didn't beat her to death. Instead, once the argument reached the bathroom, Christe fell down and injured herself really badly because she was so drunk. After the fall, Bradley started to panic. He wasn't thinking clearly because he too was drunk. So instead of getting help, which he admits he should have done, he fled the scene. They also argued that technically there was no physical proof to definitively say that he was the one who caused all those injuries. It could have been someone else who came in after Bradley left and attacked her for whatever reason without being heard or seen by the neighbors who heard the initial argument between Bradley and her. I guess that would totally make sense. But the prosecution came back and said that Christe's injuries were far too severe to have been caused by a drunken fall. The medical examiner testified that her injuries were the result of multiple blunt force injuries to her head, likely from someone punching her repeatedly before smashing her head into the toilet cistern. Multiple other witnesses testified about seeing their arguments starting at the party that night and then hearing them in their room where they heard the yelling, followed by a scream, followed by banging, then silence. It was also stated that when Bradley was found after the altercation, he had absolutely no injuries to suggest that he had been in a physical altercation. Again, the injuries he did have appeared to be from falling on a coral at some point when he was paddling that kayak to the next island. So the whole story of Christe punching him first and then him responding by attacking her, it just was not backed by the evidence. And even if she did start the physical altercation, it's still not an excuse for the level of brutality he inflicted on her. It's clear that Bradley was upset for whatever reason, whatever started the argument. I think it is probably because he was flirting with some other women, but when he was upset about this whole argument, he lashed out at his new wife and brutally beat her to death. All of this was caused by Bradley and his own choices. What started the argument was him flirting, apparently, with another woman right in front of his wife. What escalated the argument was probably him not taking accountability for it. That's just my assumption. But then what turned it into a physical altercation is probably Bradley reacting negatively and then beating her to death. After 8 days of trial, both sides rested their cases, and now the decision was up to the judge. And after hearing the evidence on both sides, the judge concluded that the prosecution did present enough evidence to convict Bradley Dawson for the murder of his wife beyond a reasonable doubt. He was found guilty of her murder. After the verdict came time for his sentencing. At his sentencing, the judge stated that all throughout this process, Bradley had shown a complete disregard for Christe's right to life and her personal liberty. The judge went on to say, quote, "Your conduct after the incident was appalling. Having inflicted serious and life-threatening injuries to the deceased, you fled the scene of the crime, leaving the deceased alone and helpless." Christe's mother and father also spoke about the tragic death of their only daughter. Her mother said, quote, "No mother should have to know this is how her daughter's life ended, and by the hands of the very person who took a vow to love, honor, and cherish her. I can only hope that the rest of your life is filled with misery, loneliness, and despair. I hope the memories of what you did to her in the last moments haunt you, because you are a monster." At the end of the hearing, Bradley Dawson was sentenced to a minimum of 18 years behind bars before he will be considered eligible for release. Under Fijian law, prisoners can apply for parole after serving their minimum sentence, but it's been stated that the parole board is understaffed, so the board takes a long time to review the request and to make their decision. Of course, the hope is that Bradley will stay in prison for as long as possible and that he will have to suffer every single day knowing what he did. And on top of that, even though he is still in paradise in prison, he's thousands of miles away from his family. So he will be alone in that prison with the guilt of knowing that he is responsible for the horrific, brutal death of the woman who loved and cherished him so, so very much. But that is where the case ends. Of course, what happened is appalling, and no amount of prison time will make up for what he did. But I hope that Christe's family can find peace knowing that justice has been served and that Bradley will have to spend a very long time behind bars, unable to hurt anybody else. I do wish he got a longer sentence, but hearing that their system is pretty slow, I can only hope that whatever appeal he tries to submit will take a long time to review and then it will be rejected. But only time will tell. Now, you all heard what I think about this case, so now I want to hear from you guys. How did this happen? Do you think that Bradley intentionally killed his wife, or was he truly so drunk that he didn't realize what he was doing? Or do you believe his defense that this was all somehow just an accident? Let me know any and all thoughts you have in the comments below. If you liked this video, please make sure to go ahead and leave this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I put out new true crime and mystery videos every single week. Don't forget to turn the notification bell on so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. Make sure you click the link down below and head to Ana Luisa to grab your new favorite jewelry pieces right now. And then make sure you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. All will be linked down below. With that, I hope you guys have an amazing week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.